morning, everybody. It's Jean here, Jean's Block Party 2019. This is block number 30 that we are working on this week. You saw block number 29, my previous video. Simple little 9 patch with a little bow tie or hourglass blocks between. That was block number 29. And I'm working with my bright reds and whites this week. So this is block number 30. It's a lovely X. A little bit more interesting, working with larger pieces, and lots of bias edges. And a lot of people are like, oh, I won't do that because it's a bias edge. A bias edge is when you cut on the bias and it's stretchy. You're not cutting across the grain. I don't know what it means. It's stretchy. As I've said, it's a bias edge. Be real careful. That's all. Be very careful when you're sewing. You're not tugging, you're not pulling, you're pinning. And to my mind, if you starch your fabrics before you use them or while you're using them and after you're using, your bias edges are then all enclosed in the seams, and it's fine. Because this is on the bias. I could have cut this large piece here on the straight of grain, so that wouldn't have been, I couldn't be bothered. So I just was real careful. But this is a lovely high contrast, 2 fabrics. We have 2 fabrics each this week. I'm not messing you with that. I'm going to mess you about next week. But that's to come. 2 high contrast fabrics. There's, I use sort of like a splashy red on white for the background here. And just from some interesting cutting on this one. And just have to pay attention to the listen to me. Pay attention to the orientation. And it's an easy one. And if you do it right, which I did this week, you'll get nice 1/4 inch seams at the end. The 1/4 inch seams at the end is obviously for when we go to sew them together with our sashing. When we put our blocks together, you need that 1/4 inch seam if you don't want to cut your point off. I'm measuring 9.5 inches, raw edge 9 inches. Now, next week, so anyway, that's block number 29, and that's block number 30 of this week's block party. Next week, I'm going to do 1 block next week. That's all. I'm doing 1 block next week. And if any of you more advanced or intermediate to advanced quilters know, the block is called card trick, right? Yeah, you know it. It looks like there's 4 intersecting, overlapping cards, fabric. 4 different fabric choices. You can make it with 2, but I was reading if you make it with 2 fabric, sometimes I just read this as I was looking it up. I've never seen it. It looks more like a swastika. I'm doing 4. I'm doing the traditional card trick. It looks like 4 playing cards tucked behind each other. It's not hard, but there's a lot of fabric cutting and a lot of fabric manipulating. Now, we will have our design board. We will do that, but I might probably just do like 2-part video if it goes on a bit. So I might have 2 videos, but 1 block, because I want us to concentrate on the cutting, on the fabric. There will be 5 different fabrics, but tons of different cutting measurements. That's what I'm saying, to put this block together. Now, so go look it up. The traditional card trick. Lots of triangles, lots of bias seams. So again, like this block, I'm not worried about that. I'm starching my fabric. That's a good thing to do. It's not a hard block, but it looks complicated. And it's interesting because Jenny Dones on Missouri Star Quilt Company, as she does in her genius, she broke down the card trick block into triangles. Into rectangles and squares, and made the block that looks like a card trick, but in rectangles. I was going to do that, the simplified version, and I thought, no. I think you guys are well enough along that if I really go slow, a lot of people are like, oh, thank you for going slow and repeating yourself, that you can do it. And it's a really cool block. At the end of the day, And with all due respect to Jenny Dones, seriously, I love the original. I love the traditional one because you can really see the triangular angles. Now I know, like when you first look at it, you just see the 4 intersecting card blocks the way she's done it, which is awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Easier. But when you look at the construction, I like the original one better. And advanced quilters will probably understand that. Or not, I don't know, but that's my opinion. And that's my thought. It's awesome. Jenny Dones is awesome. But we're going to do it the traditional, a little bit harder way. Because someone in the beginning of the quilt party did say, oh, are you going to do a card trick block? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do a card trick block. Not hard, but it's complicated. A little bit. But now you'll see the way I break it down. But I'm just going to concentrate on that one block next week. So 4 different fabrics, 4 contrasting fabrics. I don't even know. Now next week will be my burgundy and my cream, and I don't even know. I might have to pull some others to get like 4. Oh, how am I going to do that? It should be 4 different. Oh, I might have to do a lighter, maybe a rosier, 2 rosier pinks, and then 2 darker. I'm not sure. I have to figure it out because it's usually done in 4 different colors. Now I'm going to have 1 color as opposed, do you understand? So I have to put my thinking cap on because it's really effective. Most of you are doing 4, like lots of colors, but us red and white quilt people and blue and white quilt people and black and white quilt people will have to think about that. So think about high contrast perhaps within the same color family. So again, a little bit of a challenge next week, but you guys, you're fine, you're up to it. So maybe just look forward to maybe just 1 video. If it just pops up next Sunday, 1 video, that'll be it. If I can explain it, probably not. And then part 2. So that's next week. Just 1 block. That will be block number 31. But for this week, block number 29 and block number 30. I'm working on my rooster quilt. I did explain in block number 29 about this, or block number 29, about this quilt behind me. If you want information, everybody's like, oh, I love that quilt behind you. So that's that book real quick. This is the pattern it comes out of. People are not paying attention to me. They're looking around my sewing room. I know that. You're all nosy Parkers. Anyway, love you guys, and we will see you next week for our card trick. We have tricks up our sleeve. So look forward to it. See ya. Bye. We are on block number 30. Unbelievable. Block number 30, which is a high contrast block. My bright red and whites that I'm using this week. Last week I decided to do my cross, my plus sign, in white, in a lighter color. This week I'm doing this sort of X design in my darker color with my white background. Change it up a little bit. So what we need for our X is fabric A, which you're going to be cutting 1 3 5/8 inch by 10 inch long strip. 3 5/8 by 10 inch long strip. You're going to be cutting 2 3 5/8 inch squares. Fabric A, our X. Our fabric B, our background, and our corners, you're wanting to cut 1 piece 5 3/4 inch square. And then you're cutting 2 pieces 3 1/8 inch squares. Now, okay, if you forget, the 3 1/8 inch, remember, is the little line right after the 3. 3 1/8 is the little line, 1 line after the 3. And then, of course, 3 5/8 is the 1 line after the 3 1/2. 3 1/2 is 3 4/8. 1 line after is 3 5/8. So this one is 3 5/8. This one is 3 1/8. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our fabric. I'll start with fabric B. We're going to be cutting fabric B, our 5 3/4 inch square, our larger square. We're going to be cutting on the diagonal twice. going to be cutting that on the diagonal twice. I've lined it up with a line, and I'm not going to shift my fabric. We did this with block number 29. Put my ruler just slightly inside so my blade is cutting on the diagonal. So then we have 4 triangles. Be careful because they're on the bias. Now we're going to be taking our 3 1/8 inch square, and we're going to be cutting those two once on the diagonal. And then we are, just see, this doesn't get cut. Yeah, this is it. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how we're going to put this together on our design board. We're going to be putting our block together on our design board. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking your large X, putting it crossways, and then somehow we're going to figure this out just to show it. We're going to make our X, okay, with our fabric A. There's our X, just for to show us, okay? Fabric X. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our fabric B, and we're going to be putting this piece here. We're just going to be filling it up, right? We're going to be filling up our X to make our block with our background. This is a real light background today, this time. So there, if you can see that. And now we're going to take our smaller, that was our bigger triangles for fabric B. Now we're going to take our smaller triangles and we're going to put them in the corners. 1, 2, I'm in there. 1, 2, 3, and there we have it. There's our large X. There's our large bold X with our pretty patterned but white contrasting background. Now, how are we going to be sewing these units together? What we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on this unit here. And we've done something similar a few blocks ago. Let me get my pins. We want to configure, we want to be able to be sure that we're putting the blocks together, keeping our configuration. So pretty sides together on this top unit here, on this top unit here, we want to bring this piece over to here. And what you're going to do is you're going to match up this edge here. This edge, if you remember, that triangle is hanging off. Okay? That triangle is hanging off. Now, if you want to pin it right now, you can do the same thing. We're going to be working on this seam here. So I'm going to make it so that this bottom piece here is matched, but that triangle at the top is hanging off. Now I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to come down, put my corners in my very corner. I'm going to come down, I'm going to concentrate again the exact same way on this unit. So I'm going to bring pretty side over to pretty side. Now this is just, this is square here, lined up here, is on this side with the triangle hanging off. Okay, pick that up like that, and then I'm going to bring this side, we're working on this seam exactly the same way. I'm going to scratch them together, that triangle hanging off, matching that end bit right there, and pin it. Now I'm going to go over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch this. Here I'm going to pick up my units just as I want to stitch them. So I've pinned them, and I'm going to set that on my 1/4 inch seam. It's very important that you pin them because then you won't get your configuration messed up. Go slowly, and you're going to go right off that sort of intersection where the triangle is hanging off. I'm going to swing that around here, and here I'm going to start there, and I'm going to go 1/4 inch. Right to that squared off edge there. I keep doing that. I keep pulling it up. Now, I'm going to put it back on my design board, and I'm going to see that that's correct. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the exact same thing to this unit. And then right off. Oh, I ran out of thread. I ran out of thread. That's so funny. I sewed that whole thing. So let me just pin that again so I don't get messed up. And then I ran out of bobbin thread. That's funny. So I'm going to go bobbin that up, and then I'm going to come back to my design board. I filled my bobbin thread. And what I've done is I've pressed, we've just stitched these 2 units here, this one and this one, and I have pressed these where they wanted to go, and it's to the light. But I'm okay with that, because there's nothing for me, which is bright red and white, nothing is shadowing through. My red is not shadowing through over here, which is fine, and my fabric was laying a lot nicer. Now, I want you to be very careful with all of these units because they're on the bias. This is on the bias and that's on the bias. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do anything on the bias. Well, once you create a block, you know, and you've put it into your block, if you're very careful and you've not stretched your seams, and I find it very helpful to starch my units. I'm not afraid of bias seams. I'm fine with it. Now, again, we're going to just take these corners off the edges here a little bit, and we're going to work with this center unit. It's very simple. And you're going to bring this bottom unit here, configuring it properly, over to your X, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be eyeballing the same exact size of the triangles that are hanging off, and they hang off each end about 1/4 inch. And you're going to start right in that little intersection right there where your triangles begin, sewing this seam here, 1/4 inch. And as you can see, my seams laid nice and flat there. There's no matching or anything of this block. This is on a bias edge though, but I have starched it, and it's really laying nice and flat. Once it's in, everything is sewn into the block, right off of that little intersection, pulling the fabric, and then here is my unit. Now that's sort of wanting to go up that way. Yeah, that's sort of wanting to go up that way, but I'm not messing with that yet. I'm going to bring that back over. I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do the exact same thing to this unit here. Pretty sides over to here, and then we'll see that we're going to eyeball the 1/4 inch triangle hanging off, that little dog ear on that end and the little dog ear on this end. And then we're going to go right into that intersection right there, 1/4 inch. Scratch them together. Don't pull. Just let them sort of lay. You can by all means pin this. Don't pull it. Just lay it flat. Go nice and slow. And then your cross will be nice and even. I'm not pulling anything, I'm just laying it flat, not tugging anything, and right off that intersection where those dog ears meet. I'm pulling my fabric, holding it, not pulling my fabric again, because this is on the bias, trimming my seam, and there is our lovely X right there. Now, as you can see, my seams sort of want to go in. So very carefully, I'm going to set those seams very carefully, because this is all on the bias. I don't have a problem with that though. I'm going to starch that. I'm going to set these seams, and then I'm just going to roll over, nudge, 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 nudging it up carefully, evenly, so I don't get any tucks in this seam here. Do the exact same thing there. And then I'm just going to press that really nice, and then we'll just put our corners on. This is what I wanted to show you over at my ironing board. So this is our X here. And what I've done is I've set this seam very carefully. And then I'll set this seam here very, very carefully. I've already done the other one. Not stretching or anything. I've already done this one. And what I've done with that one is I've just nudged that over with the tip of my iron. Just nudged it up like that. And I've starched it. You can see that. Now again, without messing about too much, very, very carefully, I'm going to hit this with a bit of starch. I have this starch here. I find if you I'll just manipulate that little bit of starch into this seam here. I'm not pulling, I'm not tugging, I'm not doing anything. And then I'm just going to nudge this up very, very carefully with the nose of my iron. Not making any nasty tucks. And then smoothing it. And then pressing real well. And my block is lovely and flat. My X is lovely. And my back is as nice as my front, if you can see that. The seams are going to where they wanted to go in this respect to the dark, in this respect to the light, but they're laying, the block is laying beautifully and flat. So now all we have to do, there's my X, it's right in front of me. Now all we have to do is go back over to our machine and put our corners on. Very simple block this week. My lovely iron starched nice flat block. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just be putting these corners on. So I'm going to take my block off my design board and grab a corner over here, and with pretty sides together, I'm going to make sure that this 1/4 inch triangle dog ear is the exact same on each side on this seam here, and then putting my needle, my 1/4 inch, my presser foot right down into that intersection. Just stitch a 1/4 inch along. Be careful not to stretch this. And then right through off that right through off of that intersection there, where our little dog ears are. Hold that and pull. Don't pull anything. And there is our corner with a lovely 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to grab another corner, pretty sides together, making sure that there's exact same size hanging off, which is about 1/4 inch, the way we've cut these pieces. Right through, go slowly. We're not in a mad race. And then I'm coming to this intersection here where my needle's going to go right through. And that will have created my lovely, I'm pinching and pulling. I'm not just pulling my fabric. Pinch your fabric and pull it out. And there you go again. A lovely 1/4 inch seam for when we sew it into our next, into our block, into our quilt. So now I'm going to take another corner and do the exact same thing. 1/4 inch. Right down into that intersection. Make sure the seams underneath are going where you've pressed them beautifully. Right off. Press your foot up. Pinch, pull. I've not skewed anything out of whack. come over, take my next corner, configure it, pretty sides together, find your 1/4 inch dog ear there, your 1/4 inch dog ear, coming to that intersection, stop with the needle down, pull your needle up, pinch your fabric so you don't pull your fabric, your threads. And then I'm seeing that this is wanting to lay, there's my lovely block. This is wanting to lay with the pressing it up to the light side. I'm okay with that because once I trim off these dog ears, which I will do, because there's a little bit of red, and trim off those dog ears underneath. See, there's a little bit of red there. I don't want that showing through, even though it's in the seam. I'm going to press my corner units up just as they want to go, up to the light there. But I'm just going to press them up. I'm going to starch, roll that, set these seams, roll it up here because it's on the bias, be careful, and then starch my block and we'll see how it measures up. Ta-da! There is my lovely X block. X marks the spot for block number 30. Now I'm going to trim it up. Here we go. I'm going to trim it up, and then I want to get rid of these little dog ears here. So let's see how it goes. It's pretty good. I will be mindful. It's just basically, if you can see here, am I in this? Yeah, it's basically just getting rid of the dog ears and just a thread or two. Just a thread or two, because I'm mindful of my 1/4 inch seam, which is still there, which is still here. Can you see that? There's my 1/4 inch seam beautifully. Line it up on my mat. I've done that side, and it's just basically the dog ears and just a little shred of fray there. So line up this, cut off my dog ears. It's a pretty good, mindful of my 1/4 inch. It's a little bit more, but it's good. It's good. I have a 1/4 inch seam on all of my bits here. Well, I've cut it perfectly. Isn't that amazing how those 1/8 of an inch really do make a difference? So I'm going to square that up on my block there. And there's another bit of 1/4 inch seam there with dog ears. And there, oh, that looks like a little bit of red, but that's on the red fabric there. I have a 1/4 inch seam there, there. I have a beautiful 1/4 inch seam everywhere on my block. I have a bold X marks the spot on my block number 30. So I do hope you enjoy it, folks. Last week's our cross was lighter color, so and it was a cream. If you remember, it was cream and like a burgundy. So this week I have bold colors. So let me show you. This is block number 30. This is block number 29. So there are 2 blocks this week in my reds and whites. Yeah, they're pretty lovely. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've enjoyed this. Block 29 and 30. We are well on the way. All right, folks. See you next week. Bye.